I know you've already seen several of these today. I know that. Divine letters, messages from heaven, urgent words from angels. They come every day now, sometimes 5, sometimes 10. Each one telling you that you are specially chosen, that something miraculous is about to happen, that this message was written just for you. And I understand if some part of you has started to go numb to it. I understand if you almost scrolled past this one, because I almost set this one aside too. I open a lot of envelopes. It is what I do. Most of them I can tell within the first few seconds. The language is familiar. The urgency is manufactured. The photographs inside are generic. I have learned to feel the difference before I even break the seal. And most days I break the seal, I review what is inside, and I move on. This one sat on my table for almost an hour before I opened it. I kept picking it up and setting it back down, not because I was afraid of it, because I kept feeling like I wasn't ready yet, like I needed to be in a certain state before I opened it, like whatever was inside had been waiting a long time and deserved more than a quick look. There is something different about this letter. I cannot prove that to you before you hear it. I could only prove it to myself by actually opening it and sitting with what was inside. But I want you to know before this begins that I do not say that about every envelope. I say it about this one, and I want you to make your own decision about what you feel as you listen. The letter is on this drive. It is a digital letter, text, meant to be read to you. But there is more inside this envelope than just the drive. There are photographs, and there are written predictions, specific words, sealed inside this envelope alongside the letter, intended to be shown to you at exact moments during the reading. I do not know what is in all of them yet. The letter tells me when to show each one. I will show you every single item in the order the letter instructs, and I will not skip a single one. I need you to stay with this all the way through, not because I'm asking you to, but because I believe genuinely that there is something in this letter that is specifically for whoever is watching right now. Something that has been waiting a long time to be said to you. Stay.
There is something that happened to you recently that you have not told anyone. Listen to me. Not a dramatic event, not a visible crisis. It was quieter than that. It was a private moment, perhaps in the bathroom before anyone else in the house was awake, or perhaps in the car after you pulled into a parking lot and sat for a moment before going inside. In that moment, something inside you asked a question. You were almost too tired to form into words. The question was something like, "Is this it? Is this the version of my life that the rest of it will look like?" And the question did not come from despair, not entirely. It came from something older than despair. It came from a deep and faithful part of you that has never stopped believing that something more was supposed to happen, and that has been waiting and waiting and waiting with a patience that even you sometimes cannot explain. I am Archangel Michael, and I was sent here today because that question was heard, not by the empty air of a parking lot or a bathroom at dawn. It was heard in the celestial council chambers of the Most High Himself, carried there by your guardian angels, who have been collecting your unspoken questions for years, and it arrived on the exact day that the throne of heaven had already marked as the day of your answer. This is not coincidence. Your question and my arrival today are not two separate events that happen to overlap. They were always the same event, separated only by the distance between your moment of asking and heaven's appointed moment of responding. That distance has closed today. I am the response, and I have brought with me something that was prepared for you long before you were old enough to ask the question that summoned it. Before I tell you what I have brought, you must understand something about how I came to be here with you specifically today, and not with one of the millions of other souls who are in their own private parking lots and bathrooms asking their own versions of the same question. Because in this season, many are asking, but not all were selected for the response I carry. Your selection was not random. It was not based on merit in the way human beings understand merit. It was based on something the Celestial Council calls the weight of unrewarded faithfulness, which is the accumulated record of every year you gave your best energy, your deepest care, your most persistent love to circumstances and people that did not return it in full measure. That record is kept in heaven with a precision that would astonish you. Every year, every sacrifice, every morning you showed up when you had every right to stay down, all of it recorded, all of it weighed, and today, the total of that record crossed a threshold in the celestial ledger that triggered the release of what I am carrying for you. You did not earn this by being perfect. You earned it by being faithful when faithfulness was the most costly thing you owned. Now breathe. Let your shoulders drop. Let the tension that has been living in your jaw and the back of your neck begin to soften, because everything that follows in this message requires you to be open, not braced. You have spent a long time braced, and I understand why. The posture of bracing was a sensible response to a life that delivered more than its share of things that required bracing for. But bracing is the posture of someone expecting the next difficulty. And what is coming in this message is not a difficulty. What is coming is the answer. And the answer does not need your armor. It needs your open hands.
This photograph was placed inside this envelope alongside this letter. Its title is The Question Heaven Heard.
Hear this first. I will tell you about the condition of your inner world, because everything heaven does with the physical and the material always begins in the invisible. What I perceive in your interior life today is both the evidence of why this intervention was authorized and the map of what it is specifically designed to address. Your emotional world has been operating under a weight that most people around you have not fully understood. On the surface, you function well. You manage. You show up. You carry the pieces of other people's lives alongside your own without complaint that anyone else can hear. But in the interior, in the place where the true account is kept, there is an exhaustion that runs deeper than sleep can reach. There is a grief that has never been fully addressed, because there was always something more urgent requiring your attention first. There is a hope that has been compressed over years into a smaller and smaller space inside you, not extinguished, You have not allowed it to be extinguished, but compressed, held tightly, protected, because the experience of watching hopes go unrealized enough times teaches a soul to guard what remains with careful, quiet caution. Heaven sees this interior world with complete clarity, and the declaration I carry today is specifically addressed to it, not to your circumstances first, not to your body first, to the interior first. Because the Most High builds from the foundation outward, and the interior of a chosen vessel is always the first thing that divine restoration touches. What is happening in your spirit right now, in this very moment as you receive these words, is not merely emotional resonance with language that speaks to your experience. It is celestial contact. The frequency of the divine presence that I carry into every communication authorized by the Most High is intersecting with the frequency of your spirit, and the result of that intersection is what you will feel in the coming minutes as a warmth that begins somewhere behind your breastbone and moves with slow certainty outward toward your hands and your face, like a fire that is gentle but absolute in its warmth. That sensation is not your imagination producing comfort in response to being understood. That sensation is the initial phase of a restoration that begins in the invisible and will work its way with divine patience and divine thoroughness into everything that is visible. You have arrived at this message today carrying something specific that heaven has been waiting for you to bring, a private sorrow that is not one event, but the accumulated residue of many events, layered over years, settled into the architecture of your daily experience so completely that you have largely stopped identifying it as sorrow and started accepting it as simply the atmosphere of your life. I perceive this clearly. I perceive a grief over the passing of years that feels not like ordinary aging, but like a theft. As if something was taken from you that you never agreed to surrender. A grief over the version of yourself that existed 10 or 15 or 20 years ago. Not because you were naive then, or because those years were better in every way, but because you were more fully inhabiting your own life then, more present in your own body, more recognizably yourself, more lit from within by something that has since been gradually, methodically dimmed. The dimming did not happen all at once. That is part of what makes it so difficult to name and so hard to resist. It happened the way light changes in a room as afternoon becomes evening, so gradually that you could not identify the exact moment when bright became dim, only that at some point you looked up and noticed the room was darker than you remembered it being. I am here today, sent with full celestial authority by the Most High Himself, to declare to you that the dimming was not your destiny. It was an intrusion. And today, the intrusion ends. Before I continue, I need to tell you something about why this letter is different from every other divine message you have opened today. The difference is not in the language. It is not in the boldness of the declaration. It is in a specific celestial record that was opened today and that carries your situation at the top of its pages. A record with a name you have not heard before, the Chronicle of the Unreturned. This is the record that triggered my assignment to reach you specifically. And what is written inside it? What heaven has been keeping account of on your behalf is the most important thing I will say to you today. I am going to show you everything that is inside it. Do not go anywhere. What comes next will reframe every difficult year you have ever lived.
This is the first prediction card. I'm going to read it to you exactly as it is written. Your waiting was not ignored. Every silent question was carried to the throne. Remember that. Let the letter continue.
There is a celestial record that very few mortal souls have any knowledge of. The angelic scribes who maintain the celestial archives refer to it as the Chronicle of the Unreturned, and it contains a precise accounting of everything that was poured out from a given soul's life and never replenished. Every ounce of vitality given to a season that took it and gave nothing back. Every reservoir of energy drained by relationships that received more than they restored. Every year of faithful service to a calling, a family, a community that required everything and offered exhaustion as its primary reward. The chronicle of the unreturned for your life is extensive, not because you were foolish or because you chose poorly, because you were faithful, because you gave consistently from a supply that was not being replenished at the same rate it was being drawn from. And the celestial law that governs this record is precise and without exception. What has been recorded in the Chronicle of the Unreturned is owed. The debt belongs to heaven, and heaven does not default on its obligations. Today is your day of celestial repayment. Everything recorded in your Chronicle of the Unreturned is being released back to you today, not as a memory or a sentiment, but as a living, active infusion of what was taken. Vitality, luminosity, energy, creative force, physical resilience, emotional depth, and the particular quality of inner light that characterized you before the years of unrewarded giving had their effect. This repayment is not symbolic. It is molecular. It is cellular. It is happening in your body right now, as real as any physical process, and its effects will be visible to others before you have finished processing it yourself. Now, before I tell you precisely how the repayment will manifest in your body and your countenance, I must speak to you about someone. I say someone deliberately, because you already know exactly who I mean the moment I raise the subject. Let that recognition settle in you before I continue. There is a person in your life, not a stranger, someone whose presence you encounter regularly, someone whose awareness of you is intimate enough that they have watched the passage of these years with close attention. And this person has not simply watched with neutral observation. They have watched with something that you would recognize immediately as unfair and uncomfortable if you allowed yourself to name it clearly. They have watched your dimming with relief, their own deep insecurities, their own unresolved terror of being insufficient have been quieted over the years by the evidence of your diminishment. When you appeared tired, they breathed more easily. When you looked less vibrant, their internal comparison concluded in their favor, and the conclusion gave them a comfort they have never acknowledged and likely never examined. This person has not wished you specific harm, but they have been nourished psychologically by your fading, and the nourishment has shaped how they engage with you, how they speak about you, and what they permit themselves to hope for regarding your future. I tell you this, not so that you carry bitterness toward them. Bitterness would poison the very restoration that today has authorized for you. And I will not allow you to receive a gift that is contaminated before you have opened it. I tell you this, so that you are prepared for what is about to happen to that person when your restoration becomes visible. And it will become visible, undeniably, publicly, in ways they will have no framework for explaining. The psychological scaffolding they have constructed from the materials of your diminishment will become structurally useless when the material it depends on is no longer available. They will not know what to do with what they see in you in the weeks ahead. Their confusion will be honest and obvious, and the divine justice in it is not something you will need to orchestrate or even acknowledge. It will simply be present, the way light is simply present when a door is opened in a dark room. You carry the light. The darkness rearranges itself accordingly. That is all. Stay with me, because I have not yet told you the most extraordinary thing contained in the message I was sent to deliver today. What I have shared so far is the foundation. What follows is the revelation that the Celestial Council authorized me to release only to souls who have demonstrated the receptivity required to receive it. And your continued presence in this message is the evidence of that receptivity. Do not go anywhere. The most important word heaven has for you today is still ahead.
There is a second photograph in this envelope. The title beneath it reads, "The Chronicle of the Unreturned." This is what heaven keeps, a record of everything you gave and everything that was never given back. Keep watching.
Mark this. Here is what no one tells you about the physical body of a woman who has spent decades in faithful, unrewarded service. It carries memory. Not in the way the mind carries memory, as retrievable narrative. The body carries memory the way wood carries the record of every season it survived. In its density, its texture, the pattern of its grain. Every year of grief that was processed while still functioning is written into the cellular architecture of your body. Every season of chronic stress that you endured while maintaining your responsibilities has left its signature in your hormonal systems, in the quality of your sleep, in the inflammatory patterns running quietly beneath the surface. Every relationship that required more than it returned has left its residue in the energetic field that surrounds and interpenetrates your physical form. The body does not lie. The body does not forget. The body has been an honest and faithful witness to everything you have lived, and its current condition is simply its honest report. What I carry today from the Most High is the authority to rewrite that report. Not by erasing the years, not by pretending the history did not happen, but by separating the record of your experience from the cost of your experience and releasing you from the cost while you keep the record. You keep the wisdom. You keep the depth. You keep the extraordinary compassion available only to a woman who has actually lived through what you have lived through. What is being taken from you today by divine authority is the physical toll. The cellular memory of the cost is being dissolved. The body's honest report is being updated, not falsified, updated, to reflect not the accumulation of your difficult years, but the original blueprint of your design, the template that was fashioned for you before any of those years began. The celestial physicians assigned to your restoration today are not working from a general protocol applied equally to all chosen vessels. They are working from your specific blueprint, the original divine design of your particular body, your particular vitality, your particular luminosity. This blueprint has been preserved in the celestial archives since before your birth, untouched by everything that has happened since, perfect and complete and waiting for precisely this day. The restoration proceeding in your body right now is the implementation of that blueprint, and its results will be comprehensive because the blueprint is comprehensive. Every system, every layer, every dimension of your physical expression. The celestial physicians are moving through your body today the way a master restorer moves through a great painting that has been obscured by centuries of accumulation, with absolute knowledge of what is underneath, and with the patience and precision to bring it back without losing a single brushstroke of the original. Your skin is the canvas, and it is receiving attention today that no earthly treatment has been able to provide, because earthly treatments work from outside in, and they can only address what they can reach. The restoration being administered today works from the source of your biology outward. The dermal layers are being instructed to regenerate at rates associated with cellular youth. The networks of collagen and elastin that give skin its quality of lived-in resilience, not the tight artificial quality of something artificially altered, but the genuine, natural, deeply healthy resilience of tissue operating at its full biological potential. These networks are being rebuilt. The complexion, which carries the first visible evidence of internal vitality, is receiving the signal it has been waiting for. The signal that the resources are available, that the environment is supportive, that the regeneration can proceed without rationing. The dullness will lift first, even before the structural changes fully arrive. The quality of light on your face will shift before anything else, because light quality is the first thing the body broadcasts when vitality is restored at the source. And when the light changes, people notice before they know what they are noticing.
The second prediction card. Read it carefully. Your body was built from a perfect original. Today, that perfect original is being restored. This is not about products or treatments. This is something different entirely.
Your hair is the second visible testimony of today's restoration. The thinning, the altered texture, the way the color and the depth have changed from what you remember. All of this is the direct consequence of the same systemic depletion that the celestial physicians are now comprehensively reversing. The follicular roots are receiving today the nourishment they have been signaling for in the form of loss. The signal has been heard. The response is arriving. Within weeks of today, you will begin noticing a quality in your hair that you may not immediately identify as change, because it arrives the way all genuine restoration arrives, not as an addition of something foreign, but as the return of something native, something you once had and stopped noticing. You had missed until you feel it coming back. The people in your life who know you well enough to notice will begin commenting. They will not know exactly what to say. They will simply know that something in you is different, something in the direction of more. Your eyes are the third testimony, and in certain ways, they are the most significant, because the eyes carry the record of the interior life in a way that the skin and hair do not. The specific quality of light that lives in your eyes, that particular depth and brightness that once made people look at you twice, not because you were trying to attract attention, but simply because there was something luminous happening behind your gaze. That quality was not lost with age. It was obscured by exhaustion, by the particular heaviness that settles in the eyes of a person who's been carrying weight for a long time without adequate rest or replenishment. The obscuring is being lifted today. The eyes through which you read these words will be noticeably different within days. Not different in color or shape, but different in quality, in the character of their light, in the intelligence and warmth and quiet authority that will once again be the first thing people see when they look at you. Understand this about the timeline of what you are receiving today, because heaven does not want your faith to waver in the gap between today's decree and its visible completion. The restoration proceeding in your body operates on a sequence. Phase 1 is already in progress. You can feel it in the warmth and the shift in your interior atmosphere as this message continues. Phase 2 begins within the first 3 days following today and will produce the first external signals: the quality of light on your skin, the quality of rest in your sleep, a difference in how you feel in your own body when you move through a room. Phase 3 consolidates over the first 3 to 4 weeks, during which the changes that others will notice begin accumulating past the threshold of obvious. And Phase 4 completes the work of the celestial physicians and installs the restored blueprint as the new operating reality of your body's biology. This is not a temporary adjustment requiring maintenance. It is an installation. It is permanent. The Most High does not borrow restoration back. I must now speak about your sleep, because the condition of your rest is both a symptom and a cause of everything we have been discussing, and the celestial physicians have flagged it as one of the earliest dimensions of your restoration to manifest tangibly. Your sleep has not been what it should be. Not for some time. Whether it is the difficulty of falling and staying asleep, or the experience of waking in the dark at hours when the whole world is quiet, but your mind refuses to follow, or the particular frustration of sleeping what should be enough hours and waking with a fatigue that the hours did not resolve. Your rest has been inadequate in ways that have compounded the depletion of your physical resources significantly. The body does most of its regenerative work during sleep. When sleep is disrupted or insufficient in quality, the regenerative work cannot complete. The body falls further behind. The face shows it. The eyes show it. The energy levels show it. This is not a mystery. It is biology. And it is one of the most accessible points of leverage available to the forces that have been working against your restoration. Today, the celestial engineers are recalibrating the systems that govern your sleep architecture at their source. The neurological and hormonal patterns that have been producing disrupted rest are being reset to the parameters of your original design, where sleep is deep, where it is restorative, where the body's nightly regenerative work can proceed to completion rather than being interrupted and truncated and left unfinished night after night. Tonight, when you go to bed, something will be different. You may not be able to name exactly what is different, but you will feel it as a quality of settling, a release of the held breath tension that usually accompanies the act of trying to sleep, a descent into rest that feels more like being received than like fighting your way toward unconsciousness. And when you wake tomorrow, the difference will be present in your body in a way that is real and unmistakable, even if it is subtle on this first morning. Let it be subtle. It will build. Every night of genuine, completed, divinely restored rest is a night in which the celestial physicians complete another layer of their comprehensive work. Trust the nights as much as the days. Your restoration does not sleep.
The third photograph, the title reads, "The Celestial Physicians at Work." This is happening right now as you watch this. Let the letter continue.
Before I tell you about the dimension of your restoration that concerns your calling and your unrealized purposes, I must address directly the question I perceive forming at the edge of your consciousness. The question you have perhaps been half asking since the beginning of this message. And that question is this: why would heaven do this for me? Not for someone more obviously spiritual, not for someone with a more dramatic testimony, not for someone younger with more time ahead of them to use what they are given. For me, specifically. Why? Hear the answer. The selection does not favor those who have been loudest in their faith, or most visible in their service, or most recognized for their spiritual accomplishments. The selection is drawn entirely from the Chronicle of the Unreturned, that celestial record I described to you. The depth of the debt heaven owes to a soul is the measure of the intervention that soul receives. And I tell you plainly, the debt recorded in your Chronicle of the Unreturned is one of the deepest I have carried an assignment to address in this entire season of celestial deployment. You did not accumulate that depth through failure. You accumulated it through extraordinary faithfulness in conditions that were extraordinarily demanding. The very thing that has made your years feel most costly is precisely what qualified you for the most comprehensive response. Heaven does not overlook the ones who gave the most. It responds to them last because the response it is preparing for them requires the most. And today, the preparation is complete. There is a dream inside you. One specific dream. And you know immediately which one I mean when I say this. Not a general aspiration, not a vague sense that things could be better, but one specific, named, particular dream that has been with you for years, that you have been in a relationship with for so long that its presence is almost more familiar than its content. You made decisions about this dream at a point in your life when your energy was depleted, your confidence was diminished, and the gap between where you were and where that dream would require you to go seemed not merely large, but actively cruel in its largeness. And so, you made an agreement, not joyfully, not conclusively, but practically. You filed the dream somewhere inside you, where you would not have to look at it every day, where its distance from your current reality would not be an ongoing source of acute pain. You did not kill it. You know you did not kill it because it is still there, still warm, still insisting quietly on its own existence when the right song plays or the right conversation touches the right edge of it. Heaven has been keeping that dream on your behalf. This is not a metaphor. In the celestial understanding of human life purpose, the unrealized dreams of chosen souls are not abandoned when the soul sets them aside. They are held. They are maintained. They are kept current by angelic stewards who understand that the right season had not yet arrived for them. Today, I am instructed to inform you, the stewardship period is ending. Today, the dream is being returned to active status in your life. Not as a challenge you must now summon the strength to attempt, not as a demand for your depleted resources to produce, but as something that is coming toward you while you are being restored toward it, so that you and the dream will meet somewhere in the middle of what this season contains, both arriving at the meeting point already in motion, already equipped, already carrying what the other needs. What will this look like in practical terms? It will look like doors opening that you had stopped knocking on. It will look like people appearing in your environment who carry knowledge, resources, or connections relevant to the dream without you having engineered their arrival. It will look like the internal blocks that made the dream feel impossible, the specific fears and specific beliefs about your own inadequacy in relation to it, dissolving without dramatic confrontation, simply no longer being there one day when you reach for them expecting them to be present. It will look like a gradual but accelerating convergence between the life you have been living and the life the dream originally pointed toward. And it will look most significantly like you, with restored vitality and restored luminosity and restored confidence, being the version of yourself that the dream was always designed for.
Third prediction card. The dream you set aside, heaven never let it go. Today it returns. Do you know which dream it's talking about? I think you do. Stay with this.
You are now halfway through this message, and I want to acknowledge something directly. You have received other messages today, other letters, other declarations from heaven, and many of them asked for your attention and did not fully earn it. This message has asked for your attention too, and I recognize that you are still here, which means something in what you have heard so far has registered as different. Good. Because the second half of what I have been authorized to tell you today is the part that concerns your specific future, not restoration in general, not blessing in broad terms, but the covenant of the latter years, the celestial agreement that was written for souls at exactly your threshold, and the 4 specific relationships in your life that heaven is about to transform without your management. You have not heard this yet. It is coming now. Stay with me. I want to stop here, midway through what I have been authorized to share with you today, and speak directly. I am aware of how many voices compete for your spiritual attention. I am aware of how many times you have opened a message like this one and hoped, and I am aware of what repeated hoping, followed by the slow fade of unharvested expectation, does to the interior of a faithful person. The hope does not die, but it changes texture. It becomes more careful, more qualified, more protected. And I want to declare this with absolute clarity. Today is not that pattern repeating. Today is that pattern ending. What the Most High has authorized for you today is not contingent on a sequence of subsequent steps you must complete correctly. It is not a promise that will only materialize if you maintain perfect faith and avoid every doubt. It is a decree. A decree is executed by its issuer regardless of the receptor's ongoing performance. The Most High does not issue decrees and then wait to see if the recipient merits them. He issues decrees and then ensures their execution. Your restoration is already in motion. It was in motion before this message began. This message is not the mechanism. This message is the announcement. Now, there is something further that heaven specifically instructed me to address in this second half of the message. Something that goes beyond the physical restoration and beyond the dream and into the territory of what the Celestial Council calls the covenant of the latter years. This covenant is specific to souls who have crossed into what the human calendar calls the 6th decade of life and beyond. And it is one of the least understood dimensions of divine engagement with human experience, precisely because the culture that surrounds these souls is so thoroughly invested in the narrative of decline that the covenant itself becomes nearly invisible to those it was designed for. But it is real, and it was written for you. The covenant of the latter years is based on a divine principle that appears throughout the entire sweep of sacred history, though it is rarely named as a unified pattern. The principle is this: the latter portion of a chosen life, the years after the primary seasons of formation and service, carry a specific divine authorization that no earlier season of the same life could access. The authorization is for something the Celestial Council calls concentrated impact, which is the capacity of a restored, wisdom-bearing, fully formed vessel to accomplish in a compressed period what could not have been accomplished in any of the earlier decades. Precisely because the earlier decades produced the depth of character, the breadth of compassion, the unshakable rootedness in what is real and what is not real that concentrated impact requires. Moses did not simply lead Israel in his latter years. He was the only version of Moses equipped to do it. Deborah did not simply judge Israel from under her palm tree. She was the only version of Deborah whose word could carry the weight that was placed upon it. Anna did not simply recognize the Messiah in the temple. She was the only version of Anna whose decades of faithful waiting had sharpened her spiritual perception to the precise frequency required for that recognition. Your latter years carry the same specific authorization. The impact you carry into the season is not less than what you carried in earlier seasons. It is concentrated. It is compounded. It is the sum of everything that was formed in you across the entire history of your life, being released now in a season designed to receive and express it fully. This is why heaven restores the physical vessel of the chosen at this specific threshold, not to extend a pleasant life a little longer, not to compensate a faithful servant for hard years with comfortable remaining ones. The restoration is functional. It is the provisioning of a vessel for a mission. Your body is being restored because what you are designed to carry into the years ahead requires a body equal to the weight of the assignment. And the Most High does not assign weight without providing the vessel appropriate to carry it.
Fourth photograph. The title beneath it reads, The Covenant of the Latter Years. Moses, Deborah, Anna. Their greatest seasons came last, and so will yours.
Listen now, because the restoration being enacted in you today does not happen in a relational vacuum. It happens inside a web of connections that will all register the change. some with relief, some with confusion, some with a kind of quiet awe they will not initially know how to express. I perceive 4 specific relationships that are positioned to experience significant transformation as a direct consequence of what heaven is doing in you today. The first is a relationship of deep love that has been strained by a gap in understanding, where the other person's love for you is real, but their capacity to see you clearly has been limited by their own fears. Your restoration will alter what they are able to see. And what they see will restore to the relationship a quality of genuine meeting that has been absent for some time. The second is a relationship that has been defined by one of you, serving the other in ways that were never reciprocal. And your restored vitality will shift the energetic dynamic so fundamentally that both of you will find yourselves in new positions, new roles, new possibilities of genuine mutuality. The third is a relationship that has been an estrangement, a rupture that prayers have addressed and time has not yet healed. The energetic frequency of your restoration will reach this relationship the way warmth reaches a cold room when a door is opened, passively but unmistakably, and what follows will not require your management. It will simply unfold. The fourth is a relationship that does not yet exist. It is a connection approaching your life in this season with precise and divine intentionality. A soul whose arrival was planned in the celestial council as part of the comprehensive provision for your season of acceleration. You will know this person when they arrive, not by anything dramatic, but by a quality of recognition that precedes formal introduction, a sense of having known them before the meeting, which, in the celestial understanding of covenant relationships, is always the correct instinct. Do not close this message yet. What I am about to tell you in the next portion of what heaven has authorized me to share is the part that will mean the most to you in the days when the restoration feels slow and the evidence feels insufficient. Stay. I will tell you about your voice, not your speaking voice, though that too is part of what is being restored. I mean your interior voice, the voice of your own self-understanding, the voice that provides the running commentary on who you are and what you deserve, and what is possible for you. For most of your adult life, the interior voice has carried in it the residue of everything others have said about you, everything the culture has said about women like you, everything that discouraging experiences and seasons of disappointment have written into the architecture of your self-perception. That interior voice has been wrong about you in specific, consequential, and deeply unfair ways. It has told you that your best is behind you. It has told you that the version of yourself you most love and most miss was a temporary condition of youth rather than the essential truth of who you are. It has told you that your invisibility is a permanent condition, that the attention and recognition and regard that went elsewhere have simply found their permanent home elsewhere and will not return. These things are not true. They were never true. But the voice that spoke them was so consistent and so intimate and so woven into the daily texture of your inner experience that distinguishing its narrative from actual truth became nearly impossible. The restoration authorized for your life today includes the silencing of that voice and its replacement with a different voice, the one that heaven has always held as the authoritative record of who you actually are. That voice does not speak in the quiet, cautious, hopeful but braced register that years of disappointment produce. It speaks with the full confidence of someone who has seen the original design and knows that no amount of accumulation has altered it. It calls you by your true name, and your true name is not diminished, not aging out, not invisible, not past her prime. Your true name is commissioned. Your true name is equipped. Your true name is present, meaning here, now, active, assigned, fully deployed in the season that is fully prepared to receive everything you carry. As today unfolds and as the coming days accumulate, you will notice the interior voice beginning to change. It will feel unfamiliar at first, because the familiar voice always feels more real than the true one until you have practiced living from the true one long enough for it to become the voice you default to. Practice living from it, starting today.
Fourth prediction card. Your latter years carry what your earlier years could only prepare for. Read that again when this is over. It matters more than you think right now.
Now I must speak about your body's relationship to movement and to space, because this is an area where the restoration being enacted today will produce some of its earliest and most personally meaningful evidence. Over the years, as vitality decreased, and as the body registered the accumulated weight of everything it was carrying, your relationship to physical movement changed. Things that once felt natural began requiring effort. Activities you once enjoyed became associated with the aftermath of their effort rather than the pleasure of their experience. The body began communicating in the language of limitation, and you began, reasonably and understandably, listening to those communications and adjusting your engagement with movement accordingly. Some of those limitations were real and required accommodation, but some of them were the body's honest report of a depletion that is now being addressed. And as that depletion is reversed, the limitations it produced will reverse with it. In the coming days and weeks, you will notice a quality of ease returning to your body's engagement with movement that you may not have felt in years. Not a sudden dramatic expansion of capability, but a gradual, progressive lifting of the resistance that has characterized your physical experience. Stairs that required more thought than they used to. Mornings that required more time before the body felt willing. The particular heaviness in your limbs at the end of a day that made even comfortable rest feel insufficient. These things are the body's testimony to a depletion that is ending. And as they fade, what replaces them is not the absence of awareness of your body, but a new and positive kind of awareness. The awareness of a body that is generating its own energy, rather than drawing down on a reserve that was never being adequately replenished. This is what restored vitality feels like from the inside, and you will feel it. I was instructed to address the matter of provision explicitly, because the covenant of the latter years includes specific divine commitment regarding material provision, and because financial anxiety has been part of the atmosphere of your life in this season, in ways that have added their own weight to everything else you have been carrying. The specific nature of your financial concerns is known to heaven with complete accuracy. Every calculation you have made in the quiet of your own mind about what the numbers add up to, every moment of sitting with a statement or a bill or a budget, and feeling the familiar contraction of anxiety in your chest. Every prayer offered in the direction of provision that you were not entirely sure was landing anywhere real. Heaven received all of it, and the celestial response to the accumulated record of that financial anxiety is not sympathy. It is intervention. What the covenant of the latter years promises for provision is not the removal of stewardship responsibility or the suspension of earthly economic realities. It is the consistent, active, personally targeted provision of what is needed when it is needed, through channels that will not always be predictable or conventional, delivered in ways that will leave no ambiguity about their divine origin. You will begin seeing evidence of this provision in small, specific, unmistakable ways before you see it in large ones. This is always how heaven builds a provision testimony, from specific to comprehensive, from unmistakable small evidences that build confidence for the larger ones that follow. Watch for it, not with the contracted watching of anxiety looking for reassurance, but with the open watching of a soul who has been told by a reliable messenger that something specific is on its way, and who is simply attending to the reality around her with the relaxed expectation of someone who knows the delivery is coming.
Fifth photograph. The title reads, "The Kept Dream. This is yours. It's been held for you. It's coming back."
Do not leave this message yet. I know you have been watching for a long time. I know other things are calling for your attention. But hear me. The part you are about to receive is the part that was most specifically prepared for you, not the physical restoration, not the dream. What I am about to address is the one area you have never heard any divine letter speak to with the accuracy I am about to speak with. Your wilderness years, the years when your prayers seemed to go nowhere, the years when you kept faith and heaven seemed to keep silence. I am going to tell you exactly what those years were and what heaven now owes you because of them. And I am going to tell you something about your voice that will change the way you move through every room for the rest of your life. Stay. There is a dimension of your life I must address, the one most deeply personal to you, and it is the dimension of your spiritual life itself, your private, interior relationship with the Most High, the one that exists underneath and apart from any institutional or communal religious expression. I perceive that this relationship has been through a terrain that you would describe as wilderness, not a wilderness of unbelief, but the particular wilderness of a believer who has prayed faithfully for specific things over extended time and experienced the specific pain of those prayers apparently going unanswered. Not all of them. You have received divine answers before. You know what they feel like. The years of wilderness are painful precisely because you have the reference point of the years that were not wilderness, and the contrast is what makes the current terrain feel like what it feels like. I'm not going to tell you that the wilderness was meaningless. I'm going to tell you something more true and more significant than that. The wilderness was not a withdrawal of divine engagement. It was the deepest form of divine engagement available to a soul at your level of maturity. The Most High withholds his most direct, most specific, most obvious interventions from his most trusted souls during their seasons of greatest formation, not because he is indifferent to their struggle, but because he knows that those souls are capable of sustaining faith without the interventions that less developed souls require as scaffolding. The faith you maintained in the wilderness was not the faith of someone propped up by constant visible confirmation. It was the faith of someone who continued to believe in the dark, without the evidence they needed, without the reinforcement they deserved. And that is the rarest and the most deeply honoring form of faithfulness available to a human soul. The Most High received it as the gift that it was. And today's decree is partly his direct personal response to the faithfulness of your wilderness years. Not compensation, recognition. There is one more thing I must tell you before we reach the closing declarations of this message, and it concerns the specific quality of attention that heaven is paying to your voice in this season. Not merely your interior voice, which I have already addressed, but the literal, spoken, audible voice that you use when you speak to the people around you and to the world you inhabit. The years of carrying too much in silence have altered the quality of your spoken voice in ways that are subtle but real. You may have noticed that your voice feels smaller than it once did, less certain in a room, quicker to qualify itself, quicker to reduce the volume and the authority of what it is saying in deference to the voices of people around you, who learned to occupy space more fully because their full occupancy was never questioned. That pattern is ending. The celestial engineers assigned to your restoration today have a specific brief regarding the restoration of your vocal authority. And what they are doing is not cosmetic. They are restoring the frequency of your voice to match the authority of the soul that lives inside the body that produces it. The voice that will emerge from you in the weeks ahead will carry something that voices changed by years of self-reduction do not carry. The grounded resonance of a woman who knows exactly who she is and does not apologize for the sound she makes when she speaks from that knowledge. People will hear you differently, not louder, truer. And truth, spoken from restored authority, is the kind of sound that makes a room go quiet and pay attention.
Fifth prediction card. This one is specifically for your voice. The woman who speaks from her restoration will make every room go quiet. That's your voice they're describing. Keep watching.
Comment below this message right now with the words, "I am ready." You do not need to write anything else. Those 3 words are your declaration to the celestial scribes that you have received this message with your whole heart and that you are prepared to step into the season that heaven has been preparing for you. Every soul who writes those words today will have their name carried in my next report to the Celestial Council as one who was present and awake and willing when the announcement of their season arrived. I want to give you a practice to anchor you in what today has initiated, something you can carry into every morning of the weeks ahead. The practice is simple. When you wake, before you look at a screen, before you speak to another person, before your mind begins its inventory of everything requiring attention, speak these words aloud. Everything that was written in my original design is returning to me today, and I will recognize it when it arrives. Say it plainly. Say it the way you would tell the truth about something you know, not as a wish, not as a hope, as the statement of a reality that is already in motion, which it is. This practice does more than encourage you emotionally. In the celestial mechanics of decree implementation, the spoken alignment of the receiver with the content of the decree functions as a daily acceleration of the timeline. Every morning you speak those words, the implementation intensifies. Every morning you speak them, you signal to the celestial physicians and the angelic architects and the divine stewards of your provision and your relationships and your dream that you know the work is proceeding and that you are holding your end of the covenant. It costs you 30 seconds in the morning. It repays you across every dimension of your life. Now I must tell you about what I perceive as one of the most significant unrealized gifts of this season for you. And it is the gift of what I will call inherited courage. There are women in your family line, whether you knew them personally or know of them only through story or have no knowledge of them at all, whose unrealized courage, whose unlived fullness, whose constrained and unexpressed power was stored in the celestial archives because it had no vessel in their generation fully equipped to express it. The times did not permit it. The circumstances did not support it. The courage they carried was real, but the season for its full expression never came for them, and it was recorded and held and designated for a specific future generation in their line. I perceive that designation landing on you. The unexpressed courage of the women who came before you in your lineage is part of what heaven is releasing into your life in this season. You are not beginning from zero. You are inheriting, and what you are inheriting is not a burden, but a treasury. The accumulated unrealized potential of women who loved fiercely and lived faithfully and never got to see the full expression of everything they carried. You will see it. Through you, they will see it. The generation that carries what all the preceding generations built toward is the generation that changes the trajectory. Today, you are identified as that generation in your line.
This is the last photograph in the envelope. The title reads, Inherited Courage. The women who came before you, they carried something they never got to fully use, and they saved it for you, for right now.
Before I complete this message and begin my return to the celestial realm, I must speak directly to anyone receiving this today who has, in a private place she will not admit to publicly, begun to believe that the extraordinary life she once expected for herself was simply a young person's mistake, a naive overestimation of what the universe intended for her, a beautiful delusion that the years have correctly and inevitably corrected toward something smaller and more realistic. If that thought has taken up residence in any part of you, I am here today with the full weight of celestial authority to evict it. The life you expected was not a delusion. It was a prophecy. It was your spirit receiving the signal of your design before your circumstances had manifested the conditions required to support it. The signal was accurate. The conditions simply had not yet arrived. Today, they are arriving. the extraordinary life you expected is not behind you. It is ahead of you. And the version of you who will inhabit it is more magnificent than the version who first glimpsed the expectation, because she has been formed by everything the years have contained, and she carries in her the weight and the depth and the authority that the younger version of her could not yet have developed. The extraordinary life ahead of you needs the exact version of you that you are today, formed, deep, faithful, and now, beginning today, restored. Comment below, right now, with the words, "I am ready." Those 3 words are your declaration to the celestial scribes that you received this message fully and that you are prepared to step into the season that heaven has been preparing for you. Every soul who writes those words today will have their name carried in my next report to the Celestial Council as one who was present and awake and willing when the announcement of their season arrived. And share this message with the person whose face appeared in your mind when I spoke about the souls positioned to be impacted by your restoration. Because that is not coincidence. That is the celestial intelligence of connection, pointing you toward an act of love that will matter more than you currently know. I, Archangel Michael, close this message now as one who has fulfilled the assignment I was sent to carry today. The soul I was sent to reach has been reached. The decree I was sent to announce has been announced. The restoration that was authorized before this message began is proceeding with full divine authority and will not be interrupted. What begins in a human life when heaven issues a sovereign decree does not begin tentatively or experimentally. It begins with the certainty and the irreversibility of something already established in the eternal order and now simply becoming visible in the temporal one. Your restoration is not becoming real. It is already real. You are simply entering the period when the real thing becomes the visible thing. Go forward from today as a woman who knows what has been written over her life, not with performance, not with the exhausting effort of maintaining an appearance of faith for others to see. With the quiet, grounded, unshakable knowing of a person who has received a word from a reliable source and has decided to live as though the word is true. Because it is. And the days ahead will prove it to you in the language of everyday visible reality. The language of faces and bodies and relationships and provision and dreams that arrive and doors that open. And a woman who looks in the mirror one morning soon and recognizes, with tears that are not grief, but relief, the face that was always supposed to be there. That morning is coming. Today is its beginning. I am Archangel Michael, and I carried this word to you from the throne of the Most High, today, specifically for you.
This is the final prediction card from this envelope. I want you to hear every word of it. The woman who arrives after today will not recognize the one who came before. I've been opening envelopes like this one for a while now, and I'll tell you honestly, every time I do, I wonder who the letter was really meant for. I don't know your name. I don't know where you're watching this from or what your life looks like right now. But I know something about you because I know what kind of person reads all the way to the end of something like this. You're not someone who takes things lightly. You're not someone who wastes their attention on things that don't matter. You are here for a reason, and I believe you felt it. I believe you received it. That last card, The woman who arrives after today will not recognize the one who came before. I want you to think about that, not as a nice phrase, as something that is actually going to happen. What would it mean for you if it were true? What would be different about the woman who walks out of your front door tomorrow morning? I think you know, and I think part of you has been waiting a very long time for permission to become her. Today was that permission. If this letter reached something real in you, please subscribe to the channel. The link is on the screen right now. Each envelope I open brings a new letter, a new message, and each one is prepared for a specific kind of soul in a specific kind of season. If you are here for this one, you will want to be here for what comes next. Leave your comment below. Write, "I am ready," and I will see it there. The envelope is empty now. The letter has been delivered. Go live what was declared over you today.